Yeah, so let me share some information about that and why. Like, one of the main questions is, what is the purpose of Coreum? Why is there a Coreum blockchain? And why do we think that Coreum blockchain is essential and is important for the future, financial use cases for the blockchain? And so, main reason was, Coreum was actually born out of a necessity for us, because every time we looked around other blockchains, there were like issues and shortcomings with different things they handled, transactions and fees and scalability, extendability, and so on. So we thought, why don't we just spend some time, nothing serious back then, to think if that can be changed and we can create a better layer one blockchain. And so we did an extensive research on what exactly is it that we need to do, what blockchain or what sort of ecosystems we need to build on. And so it was obvious for us. We decided to choose Tendermint, which is compatible with IBC and Cosmos SDK. So a lot of new blockchains are built on Cosmos SDK. It really gives you flexibility on creating an application layer. So if you have if you think there is an idea to make the blockchain or to make a better blockchain, you could easily just use Cosmos SDK that comes with Tendermint and focus on the application logic rather than focusing on the main consensus layer. And that's the whole idea. So going back to the why Coreum and what is Coreum, I think it kind of is funny when I say why Coreum and what is Coreum, because Coreum's out there, mainnet is scheduled and devnet's there and all that stuff. But Coreum is really focused around assets. And I don't think there is any other blockchain that's currently capable of what Coreum is going to do. And that focus is essentially creating assets or having, being a hub as a blockchain for all the institutions, companies, banks, governments, CBDCs to come and start offering their assets on Coreum blockchain.
Sounds good to me.
I think a couple of weeks ago, I announced that we are working on a new technology that will be announced soon, and that is a part of Coreum. So yes, we are still all the details and everything is out. It's not out. Is done. It's probably in the code as well, but we haven't released the paper on it yet, and I think that's scheduled to go before smart tokens. Blockchains like Ethereum allow developers to basically create any type of code and have it execute on a virtual machine, EVM, and produce results. And so it's a very generic purpose blockchain. Companies when they want to issue tokens, NFTs, FTs, any token, they need to create smart contracts. And so these smart contracts live on the blockchain, and for people or for participants to interact with them, they have to interact with these smart contracts, which is not very utilized. Users pay a lot of fees when they want to invoke a specific or certain function within a smart contract, because that function is unknown to the blockchain. And these functions, it could be as simple as basic send or payments. So let's say if you want to send, US Tether or any other ERC20 that lives on the Ethereum, you're essentially interacting with the smart contract that created that, coin, say US Tether. And if you want to send it to someone, you have to invoke a specific function called send in that smart contract. And when you submit a transaction, the transaction goes through the execution engine at the validators when they're executing the code. And so they don't know what that code looks like. So they have to consume gas. And it could be low gas, high gas, but that is a non-deterministic transaction. So you don't know whether that transaction is going to execute and succeed or run out of gas for whatever reason and don't. So financial institutions mainly, or those who are seriously thinking about blockchain, they can't rely on non-deterministic things. They need to understand if they want to execute a transaction, whether that transaction will succeed and how much fees do they need to pay for that transaction, so that they can batch transactions, they can plan in advance and see, whether it's worth submitting, thousands of transactions on the chain or not. So with, when again we're talking about financial institutions, I think, there's still a lot of hype around the ISO 222 standard around communications between financial institutions like banks and anybody who's basically using transmitting money, or not even transmitting, but any sort of banking queries are defined within the ISO 222. So we decided to be the first chain, and this is very important because no other blockchain has the ISO 222 integrated directly within the chain, and so we're doing that. Any other blockchain has it as an external system, which is either centralized or is not directly on chain, and the chain does not have the code. So if you look at every other chain that says, yes, we are ISO 222, if you look at the source code, there's not even a mention of this standard. So it's just that they mention that, yes, you can build applications, connect these applications to the blockchain, and, in your application, you can create ISO 222 compatible transactions, which is not what we wanted. And so while we were thinking about this, we came to the idea of smart tokens, because we had to deal with smart contracts, and these smart contracts were not really, utilized for such transactions. When you're really thinking about ISO 222 transactions, just imagine if two banks, like Bank A, Bank B, two popular banks, start using the chain for, say, remittances or for transactions, for just regular send transactions. Imagine how many transactions are going to be there on the blockchain. There's going to be thousands if multiple banks start using the blockchain for that purpose. Because ISO 222 standard is, a regular send function with ISO 222 is not one transaction, is multiple transactions. For example, if you want to send, let's say Bank A wants to send funds to Bank B, to a specific customer, then Bank A needs to, specifically ask Bank B whether this customer is fine, in good standing. So that's one message, and then the Bank B one should respond, yes, we're good. That's another message. And then Bank A, I think that the number of transactions to complete one send transactions are not a single transaction. There are multiple transactions. So if you were to have these transactions as smart contract transactions, then that would take, a considerable amount of execution for the. And so that's why we have the smart tokens. Smart tokens are designed for anyone. Let's say you own CBDC, you just come to Coreum and you get your token, and we have something called an ACL, which allows the token creator to customize that token, whether it requires KYC, whether it requires whitelisting, freezing. There's a lot of different things, and let me just be frank about that. A lot of those ideas were inspired by the XRP ledger, because the XRP ledger is indeed very fully doing transactions for banks. And we extended that. We wanted to make sure that, if a token is issued, the token creator has the capability to create any sort of token, whether that's a fungible token or a non-fungible token. You could literally just program tax, or you can do airdrops directly with the code, or you can define, if you're tokenizing a stock, you can program dividends directly within the token contract.
That's huge.
So more details of smart tokens. I don't want to share a lot of information because I want to make sure that everybody reads the paper, because that's very full and accurate. But that's pretty much what smart tokens are. They're very much designed to solve complex token situations. Coreum is an open blockchain. Anybody can build on Coreum, and we've seen so many different use cases. And these use cases are only limited by what we can think. So anybody can come and create an application or a use case on top of Coreum. And so Sologenic is one of the use cases. So Sologenic is an asset tokenization platform. And tokenizing things like securities and stocks, and they are pretty much complicated because they don't represent simple tokens. You have a lot of different functionalities in a stock market, for example, stock splits and dividends and all that stuff, that it's not easy to directly have them on chain or in a smart contract. We are, as Sologenic as well, going to implement those use cases on Coreum. But for capital markets, for any other use case, we're really creating Coreum to be as open as possible for anybody to come and build on top. When talking about inflation, there's a reason for inflation to exist in traditional monetary systems like fiat and all that stuff. Inflation sometimes is good, because with inflation you can control a lot of things especially in a proof of stake ecosystem like Ethereum or Coreum or any other proof of stake. Not only inflation helps with securing the network, it helps with the governance as much, because if you don't stake your tokens, then you don't have a say in the governance. And so that kind of democratizes everything, and it basically allows everybody to have their say on the chain. So it's still in the pipeline. No. So basically Tendermint, like I mentioned, with the XRP Ledger sidechains, essentially you can create the sidechain on any network, on any blockchain, as long as you can monitor incoming and outgoing transactions, and you can handle the interoperability with the main chain. The sidechain's consensus engine built on anything. You can have a consensus engine that's built on the Ripple protocol, but I think the one that exists today is built on Tendermint engine. I mentioned earlier that Tendermint is really a great consensus engine, and it handles the majority, it leaves less room for errors and bugs for a blockchain, so that developers can focus on the application layer. And on the XRPL sidechain, which is EVM based, the application layer is actually the Ethereum virtual machine.